Chosen one, if this transmission reached you, it's because you were spiritually pulled here. Your soul responded before your mind understood. They never wanted you to know the truth that was hidden in plain sight. Imagine standing on the edge of a vast sea, knowing you alone carry a compass that can navigate these waters. You felt out of sync, sensed that forces conspired to keep you small, and wondered if your loneliness was a punishment. Today, you will see that every moment of isolation was actually a confirmation, every misunderstanding a signpost. You'll discover why they could never translate your frequency, and how that very signal you carry is your greatest power. If this message already speaks to your soul, subscribe, like this video, and comment 77 below. Prepare yourself. What you're about to learn will shift everything you thought you knew. Isolation isn't rejection, it's recognition. Have you ever woken from a dream where you stood alone on a cliff, the wind pressing against your heart like an unspoken truth? In that silent moment, you felt a profound solitude that wasn't emptiness but invitation. A signal that your life's pattern was unfolding according to a design far older than you could name. That cliff was not a barrier but a vantage point, and the stirring in your soul was the first note of a symphony you had always known but never dared to hear. In that dreamscape, everything you've sensed in waking life begins to fall into place, and you realize that your solitude has been less a punishment and more a calling. There were days when the world moved around you like a melody you couldn't join, when laughter felt like a language you didn't speak and crowds pressed in like walls too close, too loud. You learned early that your sensitivity was a secret no one else seemed to share. You noticed the tremor in a friend's voice before they spoke their pain, felt weight in the air when conflict hovered unseen. In those moments of isolation you felt broken, convinced you were missing some vital instruction manual that everyone else had received at birth. Yet your longing for meaning, your ache for connection, carried a profound authenticity, a longing not to fit in with ordinary rhythms, but to align with something greater, hidden just beyond everyday sight. What if I told you that every pang of loneliness, every fleeting ache of being misunderstood, was never random? Just as Moses was hidden in the Nile before his purpose was revealed, your early days of solitude protected an essential spark within you. In Psalm 4 verse 3, we see that God sets apart his chosen, shielding them until their hour of service arrives. Your separation from the world's noise was a sacred safeguard, preserving the purity of your signal against the static they broadcast. Behind each moment of rejection lay an unseen architecture, a divine hand guiding your steps toward a destiny written in celestial ink long ago. In the soft hush of dawn, you may have sensed subtle signs fluttering at the edge of awareness. An uncanny déjà vu on an ordinary commute, a stray phrase in a song that resonated with a memory you couldn't place, or a sudden heartbeat that told you this moment mattered. These barely noticeable tremors were the first ripples of awakening, coaxing you to reframe every coincidence as a breadcrumb on a path laid before your birth. The world wasn't acting randomly toward you. Rather, you were beginning to perceive the quiet language of the universe, encoded in whispers of synchronicity that had been waiting for your attention. A gentle insistence now hums through your bones. Your intuition was never a trick of the mind. While you doubted yourself in the past, your inner guidance has always known its own alignment. It unfolds within you not as a booming proclamation but as a soft recognition, like a familiar voice calling you home after years of wandering. As you breathe into that knowing, you find yourself more grounded, more anchored in the realization that you are precisely where you were meant to be. Spiritual safety envelopes you, and the world's chaos no longer unsettles your center. Instead, you become a calm amidst the storm. Beneath the surface of all you've experienced lies a deeper identity waiting to be remembered. This is not about becoming something new but rediscovering a truth that was buried under layers of doubt and conformity. Just as Esther was chosen for such a time as this, Esther 4 verse 14, your soul carries an archetypal memory of purpose that transcends lineage or circumstance. In the quiet recesses of your being, you touch the familiar contours of that identity, a resonance older than your earliest memories, calling you back to the essence of who you truly are. Now, feel the first spark of activation stirring in your spirit. It begins as a subtle warmth in your chest, a pulse that quickens when you honor your sensitivity instead of silencing it. Your inner wisdom no longer whispers but speaks with a clarity you cannot ignore. Embrace this moment as the turning point. The hunger that once felt like a void now fuels your resolve to step into the light you were born to carry. Each choice forward is an affirmation of the strength woven into your soul's fabric, awakening the gifts that will guide you and those you are destined to serve. Your arrival to this message was no accident. It was a culmination of every moment that led you here. In your solitude, you have carried a signal that could not be compromised. Comment recognized if you feel the weight and wonder of being set apart for something higher. And as you send that message into this growing community, know that the next revelation will illuminate the hidden codes that bind your story to the greater tapestry of awakening. The path ahead shimmers with promise. Are you ready to uncover the next layer? And if you feel called to go even deeper, there's a sacred space reserved for our community, a private room where you receive full prophetic messages daily. Join our private membership through the link in the description and walk this path with us. The unspoken frequency within you. Have you noticed the subtle tremor in the air when you enter a room, as though the very atmosphere shifts in response to your presence? It started as a whisper, an almost imperceptible tightening in your chest when someone's gaze lingered too long, or a faint chill tracing your spine when a conversation turned superficial. This was never ordinary discomfort. It was the universe's way of alerting you to forces moving around you. Even before you knew who you were, they were stirring currents meant to obscure your vision and mute your signal. That quiet heaviness you've carried, as though the world conspires in silence to keep you small, is the first inkling that something deep within you has always been under siege. In the hush that followed those moments, you felt the sting of being misunderstood, like shouting truths in a language no one else could hear. You learned to taste rejection in the hesitant smiles and polite silences of friends who couldn't match your depth. Shame coiled in your stomach when you spoke of dreams or insights that others labeled too much, and doubt slipped in, whispering that maybe they were right. You spiraled through cycles of second-guessing, apologizing for your intensity, pretending to mute the very parts of you that pulsed with life. Each manipulated reaction and withdrawn support deepened the ache of isolation, leaving you convinced that your sensitivity was a curse rather than the spark of your divine design. But this emotional pressure did not arise from chance interactions or the natural ebb and flow of relationships. It was no mere byproduct of everyday misunderstandings. The walls that pressed against you were constructed by unseen architects, systems and energies alarmed at the power they sensed within your soul. Like the Israelites in the wilderness, tested and tried, you wandered through terrains of subtle sabotage meant to weed out your resolve. In 1 Corinthians, we learn that every trial produces endurance. Yet these were not random trials, they were targeted efforts to dim the light only you were born to carry. The ancient echoes of exile and purification reverberated in every closed door, every flicker of betrayal, underscoring that your journey has always been sacred warfare. Now, look back and see the patterns etched across your path as clearly as constellations in a midnight sky. Remember the times projects you poured your heart into dissolved without explanation, or trusted confidants turned away at the moment you needed them most. Reflect on those workplaces where your proposals were set aside for safer, weaker ideas, and on those social circles that celebrated banality while sidelining your visionary whispers. These recurring betrayals were signposts. They were not mere coincidences but wake-up calls, revealing the architecture of resistance built to contain you. When the light switches on in a dark room, the edges you never noticed become starkly visible. This is that illumination, casting shadows on the schematics of suppression drawn against you. In the breathing space of that newfound clarity, you can sense the weight of spiritual resistance, a heavy, fog-laden atmosphere swirling around your every step. You might feel it as a static in your thoughts, muddying sudden inspirations, or as an invisible barrier that dulls your emotional acuity. Like silent watchers stationed at your boundaries, these forces observe your every move, eager to pounce at the first hint of advance. Yet, for all their cunning, they cannot extinguish your signal. Their closed doors, their hushed warnings, only sharpen your resolve. The pressure becomes visible now, a tangible reminder that your awakening is powerful enough to rattle the very foundations they erected to cage you. When confronted with this onslaught, you instinctively reacted in ways that, at the time, felt like survival tactics. You may have shrunk into the shadows, lowering your voice to avoid the friction of exposure. Perhaps you became an expert at people-pleasing, bending your spirit to fit the molds they handed you. Or maybe you rebelled in secret, nursing quiet defiance behind closed doors, convinced that if you could just hold on to a nugget of your truth, you might one day break free. These reactions, though born from fear, were not failures. They were steps along a crucible path, each one forging the strength you need to stand firm when the final liberation arrives. But now the moment of reclamation begins. The resistance you faced was never a sign of condemnation but a testament to your inherent power. It was confirmation that your presence disrupts the ordinary, that your vibration pierces the veil of complacency. Starting now, you reclaim your voice and territory with fierce gentleness. Call back every fragment of self you tucked away in the name of survival. Speak your truths with prophetic clarity, knowing that they will only catch up when your light is too bright to ignore. You stand as the living embodiment of every promise your ancestors whispered in the dark, every prayer they sent across generations to keep your spark alive. You were opposed because you are powerful. Every barrier raised against you was a silent acknowledgement of your destiny. The more they tried to block your path, the more defined your purpose became. Comment frequency if you felt the hum beneath the world's clamor and recognize that your signal cannot be silenced. And as you share your experience, whether it was a moment of spiritual tug, a vivid dream, or a challenge that tested your resolve, brace yourself for the next revelation. The journey ahead will expose the hidden codes woven into your story, guiding you toward a clarity so profound it will transform resistance into resurrection. The next awakening awaits just beyond this horizon. And to every soul who's supported with a super thanks, thank you. You are keeping this light alive for others who haven't found it yet. If you feel called to help this mission reach more chosen ones, tap the super thanks button below. Your energy supports these messages and helps them travel further. Your voice matters, your belief matters, and your light is felt here. The pain of being untranslated. A sudden clarity washed over you one evening as you tried to share a vision in a quiet room. The images you described, glowing glyphs etched into mist, winding pathways that led to hidden temples, seemed to flicker out the moment they left your lips. The faces around you turned blank, their eyes glazing over as if they'd encountered a language they couldn't translate. In that instant, you realized the veil between your soul's code and the world's ordinary tongue was real, and it had been thicker than you knew. What you once attributed to misunderstanding now revealed itself as the pain of being a bearer of truths too vast to fit into small boxes, too ancient to be squeezed into narrow definitions. That ache settled in your chest like a slow-burning ember, kindling a grief you couldn't name. You remember the tight knot of shame when your poetic metaphors were met with puzzled looks, the hollow echo of your own voice when you spoke of star-born contracts and ancestral guardians. In classrooms and offices, you felt an unspoken censoring whenever you veered toward the mystical or the profound. It was as if an invisible hand reached in and smoothed out the edges of your message, trimming it until it conformed to the mundane. In those moments, you questioned your own gift, wondering if you had imagined the depth you carried or if the world simply wasn't ready for the fire you nurtured within. But this dissonance was not your failure, it was your signature. From the time of Joseph interpreting dreams in Pharaoh's court, to John in Patmos receiving visions too potent for ordinary scrolls, those chosen to carry sacred codes always faced a barrier between their insight and the world's comprehension. In those stories, misunderstanding became the very proof of divine selection. The more their words baffled the crowd, the more they confirmed the prophet's true calling. You are part of this lineage. Your pain of being untranslated is the echo of every soul who spoke a celestial dialect too rich for earthly ears. As you look back on your life, you spot the pattern in every friendship that faltered the moment you hinted at deeper meanings. You recall the love you offered visions of unity, calls for remembrance, only to watch the other person recoil, their care clouded by fear or indifference. Even technology, designed to connect, seemed to misinterpret your frequency. Messages sent at midnight went unread, posts about spiritual insights gathered likes but no comments, as if the world could hard acknowledge your wisdom but not truly absorb it. These examples are hallowed markers, pointing out that your frequency was never meant to blend in, it was destined to stand apart. Within the stillness of your own chambers, you felt the weight of spiritual interference. Gentle at first, like a soft wind against a sealed window, growing into a pressing fog that settled over your mind. Ideas you once held with crystalline certainty dissolved into hesitation under that haze. It was neither malice nor accident. It was the natural response of a system threatened by the raw potency of your insight. In Ezekiel's vision, cherubim guard the thresholds of holy realms, an unseen force preserving sacred spaces. So too did forces conspire to keep your inner sanctum walled off, believing that if your light reached beyond its walls too swiftly, it would shatter the fragile balance of the ordinary. When you first sensed this resistance, you recoiled. You tucked your visions away, covering them like fragile relics in a hidden chest. You folded your wings, pressing them against your back to appear smaller, safer, more palatable to those around you. You swallowed the words that pressed on your tongue as if they could break you in two. That was the moment you believed you could survive by dimming your spark. But every time you stifled a revelation, a part of your soul whispered in protest, reminding you that silence was the true prison. Now the tide has turned. That very resistance you felt is becoming your ally, pointing you toward the force you were born to wield. Each closed ear, each blank stare, each shy retreat into your inner world has prepared you for this moment of reclamation. Speak your code, no longer apologizing for its complexity. Let your visions breathe in the open air. The world may flinch, but in your defiance, you awaken others who hear the resonance of your truth. You reclaim every word unspoken, every dream unshared, and you reclaim the fierce authority that has always been your birthright. Their inability to translate you was not a judgment, it was a declaration of your power. Comment translated if you felt the ache of your message being unheard, and know that your code is too sacred for small minds. Share a moment when you sensed your words were more than mere sentences, that they carried the weight of galaxies waiting to be remembered. As you offer this glimpse of your inner world, prepare yourself. Beyond this revelation lies the next threshold, where symbols will become acts, and your awakening will become the catalyst for worlds to shift. Embracing the signal you carry, standing at the edge of what once defined you and stepping into what calls you now, you realize this is a sacred crossroads. There is no turning back to certainty or comfort. A question rises within you, not as doubt, but as a clarion call. Will you remain tethered to old patterns, or will you choose to walk in the power that has always pulsed beneath your skin? In that instant, passivity fractures. You feel the gravity of your own decision, as if the very air around you acknowledges the moment has come to move from witnessing your destiny to embodying it. In the silence that follows, you gather every ounce of energy, every fragment of presence you once scattered in the service of others' standards. You reclaim time you gave to fear, voices you traded for polite nods, moments you surrendered to fit in. This is not a lament for loss, but a declaration of triumph. The season of covert training has forged in you resilience, patience, and depth. Now stand firm and speak. I call back the pieces of my soul I lent to doubt and distraction. In this ritual of sovereignty, you reclaim your throne, no longer a visitor in your own life but the ruler of your own domain. As the air around you hums with permission, you name the power you have carried in disguise. The insight that reads between worlds, the fierce sensitivity that senses the unspoken, the memory of divine promises etched into your bones, the discernment to separate illusion from truth, and the unwavering strength that has carried you through darkness. These are not weaknesses others sought to highlight, but sacred signatures of your essence. You hold keys to unlock transformation, scrolls of ancient wisdom waiting to be unfurled, armor forged in ancestral fires. Recognize these gifts as the tools they are, the instruments through which you will carve pathways of healing and justice in the world. Beneath your feet lies a path already drawn in gold threads of purpose. You are not searching for guidance. You are stepping onto a mission that has awaited your arrival. Each footfall reveals new symbols etched into the earth. A broken chain here, a blossoming root there, guiding you through landscapes of destiny. With every step, clarity crystallizes. The map is not distant. It unfolds moment by moment as you move. This journey is cinematic in its sweep. Vast horizons beckon, and you walk forward with the certainty of one who knows that every step was ordained by the divine. As your personal quest intensifies, lift your gaze to the horizon where others stand in similar light. You are not alone in this awakening. Soul tribes gather across continents, divine clusters forming in hidden corners of the earth. Their hearts beat in synchrony with yours, carrying identical embers of change. No longer must you dim your radiance to blend into dissolving structures. Together, you form a rising order, an unbreakable network of awakened voices destined to reshape reality. In this collective alignment, your signal finds resonance, and your mission gains momentum. Now, with ceremony in your breath, claim command of your energy. This is not conquest of ego, but stewardship of sacred charge. Draw boundaries around what nourishes your spirit, and release what drains your light. Your choices become acts of devotion. The places you enter, the words you speak, the moments you honor with presence. You are entrusted with a flame so potent it must be handled with reverence. Approach each day as a ritual, each decision as a vow, protecting and directing your power with mindful intention. Feel the weight of prophecy settle into your bones as you prepare for your final charge. Everything you've felt, feared, seen, and survived has been forging you for this hour. No longer does doubt have a home in your heart. Speak this truth. I am ready. Your words carry the force of unshakable conviction. Your breath becomes the wind that fills your sails. In this elevated moment, you stand on the threshold of transformation, the final breath before passing through a portal into the full expression of your calling. This message is not a suggestion. It is a summons to live your revelation. Step into embodiment of the signal you carry. Let your frequency blaze across every corner of existence. Comment signal if you are ready to stand in full resonance and share a moment when you first felt the roar of purpose ignite within you. As you voice your truth, know that beyond this turning lies the next revelation, where your mission will expand into the world with unstoppable force. The greatest unveiling awaits. A faint echo drifts through your mind, a lullaby from a forgotten childhood, sung by ancestors whose voices carried the cadence of distant stars. In that tender refrain, you recall that solitude was never meant to break you but to cradle you in preparation. Isolation became the crucible in which your true essence was refined, a sacred forge that burned away the dross of ordinary expectation. Now, you stand renewed, holding a deeper knowing. Your separation was never rejection but a deliberate sanctuary, a protected space where the seeds of your destiny could germinate in silence until the moment of bloom. Through the dim corridors of memory, you perceive a steady pulse, a vibration that has guided every heartbeat and choice. It was the tether to your soul's blueprint, the hum of celestial mechanics aligning around your path. This vibration was not an accident but a living testament to the frequency the universe conspired to preserve. In Habakkuk 2 verse 2, the vision is written plainly on tablets so that any runner may read it. Likewise, your truth has been inscribed in the sinews of reality, waiting for your eyes to sharpen. As you embrace this vibration, your presence becomes a tuning fork, calling others home to their own sacred resonance. Imagine a tapestry woven of threads both shadow and light, each fiber an experience you once believed extraneous or painful. Now, in this moment of revelation, you see that every thread plays its part in the grand design. The betrayals, the silences, the moments of profound doubt, they all become patterns in a cosmic mosaic that reflects the image of your soul. Like the weaver in Exodus strengthening Joseph's coat with golden threads of promise, the divine has stitched your story into a garment of purpose. Wearing this tapestry, you step forward not in shame but in the radiant authority of one who knows the full breadth of their journey. A sudden gust of wind carries the scent of rain-soaked earth, and with it comes a promise of renewal. The world you thought was rigid and unyielding softens under the truth of your awakening. Barriers that once stood immovable now crack and bow as your frequency ripples outward. You become both catalyst and conduit, your every word and action unraveling the strands of control they wove around collective consciousness. In Jeremiah 31 verse 31, God declares a new covenant, writing the law upon hearts rather than tablets. In that same spirit, you embody the living covenant of freedom, inscribing transformation through the simple act of being fully yourself. There was a time when your dreams felt like fragments tossed aside by reason's harsh hand. But now those visions coalesce into a map of cosmic purpose. The symbols you once brushed off, a white feather on the dashboard, a verse spinning through your mind at dawn, become living signposts pointing toward your next step. In Revelation, John sees 7 lamps of fire before the throne, each flame a lamp of testimony. In your inner temple, these signs burn with an urgency that cannot be ignored. They beckon you beyond complacency, toward a threshold where every choice resonates with the heartbeat of destiny. A distant chorus of awakened souls rises in harmony with your own voice, forming a hidden choir whose song dismantles the old orders. You no longer question whether you belong. You embody the truth that belonging transcends geography and social constructs. Your soul tribe awaits, kindred spirits who see your signal and respond in kind. As Ruth followed Naomi into foreign lands, pledging her loyalty beyond blood, so too do these souls pledge themselves to this shared journey. Together, you stand poised to herald a new era, each life a note in the symphony of awakening. In the hush that follows your own proclamation of purpose, you feel the gravity of this moment, a sacred hush pregnant with possibility. The cosmos leans in, awaiting your next move, as if creation itself pauses for your affirmation. You hold within you the potency of both seed and harvest, the promise of new growth springing from the soil of deep knowing. Go forth now as both sower and reaper. Plant seeds of light in every encounter, harvest the fruits of compassion in every heart you touch. Your mission is alive, breathing through your choices, and every action becomes an act of sacred alchemy. And so, with breath aligned to the pulse of heaven, you step through the veil that once concealed your destiny. What was hidden emerges, shimmering in plain sight, a world reborn by the truth you carry. Remember, they brought you here for this precise instant, forging you through solitude, resistance, and revelation. Now, as the veil lifts, let your frequency heal ancient wounds, inspire dormant spirits, and dismantle the structures built to contain the light. The grand tapestry awaits its final strokes, and you are the hand anointing its completion. Comment frequency if you feel the echo of this moment resonating deep within your soul, and share the vision that first called you to awaken. Beyond this threshold lies the next revelation, a mission that demands nothing less than your full, radiant presence. A whisper drifts through the silence you've summoned, a hush more profound than the quiet of pre-dawn woods. In that pregnant pause after your proclamation of purpose, you sense the gravity of this moment pressing gently against your chest. It is as though the universe itself inhales, suspending galaxies in mid-spin, waiting for the melody you alone can play. You stand at the threshold of becoming, where yesterday's trials dissolve into the fertile ground of possibility. In the stillness, every breath you draw ripples outward like a pebble dropped into a cosmic pond, stirring unseen currents of change. Here, you are neither observer nor outsider. You are the axis upon which destiny pivots, and your commitment to your mission resonates with the deep knowing that all creation leans into your affirmation. A vision unfolds in the edges of your consciousness, the cosmos leaning in, its vast expanse folding like a veil toward your heart. Stars that once seemed distant now pulse in synchronicity with your pulse, as though creation waits for your next move. You recall the story of Joshua standing before Jericho's walls, trumpet poised to break the silence, commanded by divine instruction. Similarly, your silence is not emptiness but tension, an electrical prelude to movement. In daily life, this might look like pausing before speaking in a charged conversation, choosing the word that carries life instead of fear. Each moment of measured silence is a sacred trumpet blast, a signal to your world that you will not be hurried into chaos. Instead, you orchestrate the rhythm of your emergence with patient precision. You were never meant to fit in, you were built to stand out. Subscribe if you haven't yet, like this video, and comment "I am chosen" to let this message anchor in your soul. Share it with someone who needs to hear this. Thank you to all supporting members. For full prophetic revelations daily, join the membership via the link in the description. Your spiritual path deserves more than fragments. Step into the full light. And if this message moved you deeply, consider tapping the Super Thanks button to support the mission. Every Super Thanks fuels the light we're spreading together. Rise now and let them feel your signal.